She was just a 14-year-old girl with a scholarship check, but they treated her like a threat, isolated her, called security, made her feel invisible. Then she saw the manager secretly hand over documents to a rival bank. But when her mother walked in, everything changed. What happened next shook the entire room. But let's start from the beginning. "You're nobody here." Jasmine Porter stood at the edge of the gleaming marble floor, her fingers clutching a school-issued binder and a freshly cut $5,000 scholarship check. The lobby of Grant and Wells Bank was pristine and sterile, designed to intimidate. High glass walls, white leather chairs no one dared to sit in, and a silence so tight it hummed. Her heart beat louder than the ambient music playing overhead. She was just 14, wearing her navy blue school uniform, white collar perfectly ironed, shoes slightly scuffed from her morning walk. Her mother had taught her to stand tall, shoulders back, chin up. But here, in this place, that lesson felt far away. This was her first time handling money like this. Real money. It wasn't allowance. It wasn't birthday cash. This was earned. She'd won the citywide STEM scholarship for her design of a biodegradable water filtration system. $5,000. A symbol of everything she'd fought for. She was proud and terrified. She had memorized everything: routing number, account requirements, even how to answer source of funds questions. Her mom had filled out all the paperwork online the night before and told her, "This is your moment, Jazz. Go show them who you are." But as she stepped up to the counter, something shifted. The woman behind the glass, Victoria Hayes, tilted her head, adjusted her glasses, and gave Jasmine a once-over. Victoria was in her 50s, sharply dressed, platinum blonde hair twisted into a bun like barbed wire. Her eyes were cool, detached, calculating. "Yes?" she asked, voice clipped like she was swatting a fly. "Hi, I'm here to open a savings account," Jasmine said, trying to keep her voice steady. "My mom submitted the forms already. I just need to deposit." Victoria raised a hand. "Do you have identification?" "I have my school ID and—" "That's not government issued." "But I'm 14. My mom—" Victoria took the check from Jasmine's hand and examined it like it was counterfeit. "And where did you get this?" she asked, tone hardening. "This is a large sum for someone your age." "I won a scholarship." "A what scholarship?" Jasmine cleared her throat. "STEM. Science and Technology." Victoria waved it off. "Sit over there. I'll need to run this through verification. This could take a while." There was a pause. Jasmine blinked. "Do you need me to?" I said. "Wait." It was said softly, firmly, with the cold authority of someone who had said that word too many times, to too many people who never dared question it. Jasmine glanced around the room. 2 white clients who had entered after her were now being greeted with warm smiles and ushered toward private offices. One even received coffee. Meanwhile, Jasmine was standing, alone, being asked to wait without explanation. The younger teller, Tom, sitting a few feet away, looked up from his screen. He met Jasmine's eyes for a second, but quickly dropped his gaze. He saw everything, and did nothing. A security guard emerged from a side door and approached Victoria, who pointed discreetly at Jasmine. The guard didn't say a word, just stationed himself nearby, arms crossed. Watching, not protecting. Watching. Jasmine's hands began to sweat. She reached for her backpack, instinctively wanting to text her mom, but remembered her phone was in the school office. Students weren't allowed to carry them during class hours. She was completely alone. "I'm just here to deposit my scholarship," she whispered under her breath. "I didn't do anything wrong." But that didn't seem to matter. Victoria returned, now holding the check in one hand and Jasmine's school binder in the other. "This won't do," she said curtly. "We'll need to validate both the check and your story. Sit over there." She pointed toward a leather bench near the wall. No one else was sitting there. Jasmine hesitated. Now. And so she went. Sat down like a child sent to the principal's office. No explanation, no support, just the stares of strangers and the cold stare of the guard. Victoria walked off, muttering something to Tom as she passed him. Jasmine could hear fragments. "You know how it is." And, "Don't let her wander." Wander? As if she were a threat? Her fingers dug into the edges of her binder. She watched as Tom nodded uncomfortably, not meeting her eyes again. Jasmine sat in silence, surrounded by marble, glass, and judgment. Her heart thumped against her ribs like it wanted out. She stared at the clock. Only 3 minutes had passed, but it felt like hours. It wasn't just the waiting. It was the way everyone seemed to pretend she wasn't there, until they wanted to remind her that she was out of place. Unwanted, suspicious. She looked at the security guard again. He wasn't even pretending not to watch her. His arms were still crossed, his expression unreadable. She was just a girl with a binder and a scholarship check. But to them, she was nobody. The weight of silence. Jasmine sat frozen on the cold leather bench near the wall, her binder pressed tight to her chest like a shield. She could feel the eyes on her, not directly, not obviously, but they were there, lingering, watching, judging. The security guard hadn't moved. He stood like a statue just a few feet away, arms folded, face blank, but his presence was louder than anything. She looked around, hoping, begging, for a kind face. But all she saw was silence. People passed by. Bank employees clicked across the floor in expensive shoes, chatting quietly or typing behind glass partitions. No one addressed her. No one asked if she was okay. She wasn't part of the room anymore. She was othered, labeled, contained. The air was too still. Even the faint music had stopped, or maybe her heartbeat was just too loud now. Her fingers dug into the edges of her binder. She could feel her own pulse racing in her wrists. How long had it been? 5 minutes? 10? Time moved differently when you were being watched, when you were being made to feel like a threat. She glanced toward Victoria's desk. Empty. Tom was still there, head lowered, nervously glancing toward her from time to time. Jasmine noticed the way he twitched when Victoria reappeared with her usual stiff composure, holding a small clipboard. "She's still here?" Tom asked softly, trying to keep his voice neutral. Victoria didn't look up. "Of course she is. Told her to wait." Tom hesitated. "It's just a deposit, right?" Victoria shot him a look. "Don't be naive. You saw the check. You saw the attitude." "Attitude?" he repeated, confused. Victoria rolled her eyes. "Kids like her, they think they're owed something. Doesn't sit right." Tom didn't respond. Jasmine heard all of it. Each word landed like a brick in her chest. Kids like her. What did that even mean? Her throat tightened. She blinked hard, trying to hold back the burn in her eyes. Crying here would only make it worse, make her look guilty, weak. Just what they were probably expecting. She wasn't going to give them that. She straightened her back, swallowed the lump, and looked at the clock again. 12 minutes. The white couple who had been behind her in line were now sipping coffee in a private consultation room. A young man in a tailored suit strolled in and was immediately greeted with a smile and "Mr. Palmer, right this way." And Jasmine? Still waiting. Still invisible. No, worse than invisible. Watched. Suspected. Isolated. She reached for her binder again, opened it slowly, as if the act of flipping a page could ground her somehow. Between math notes and science diagrams, she found a blank page and pulled out her pen. And then she began to write. Not because someone told her to, not because she thought it would change anything, but because it was the only power she had left in that moment. She wrote down the exact time she entered the bank, the time she was first addressed, the words Victoria had used. "Do you have ID? Sit over there. Kids like her." She wrote down the nameplate on the manager's desk, the way Tom hesitated, the moment the security guard was called. Her hand trembled, but her lines stayed steady. As she wrote, something in her shifted. She wasn't just a girl being humiliated anymore. She was a witness. Then it happened. Through the frosted glass wall of the manager's office, Jasmine saw Victoria meeting with someone, a man in a sleek gray suit. Tall, with salt and pepper hair, sharp jawline, and a folder tucked tightly under one arm. Jasmine blinked, focusing. The man wasn't part of the bank staff. She'd never seen him before. Yet Victoria looked nervous, deferential even. That wasn't like her. Jasmine leaned slightly, trying to see more. The man handed Victoria a red folder. She handed him something in return. Documents, thick printed papers. Her eyes widened. Was that a client folder? Victoria whispered something and glanced around. The man nodded once and slipped the papers into his briefcase. Jasmine felt a chill run down her spine. This wasn't routine. She'd only caught a glimpse, but it was enough. Enough to know this wasn't about her. This bank, this place, was hiding something else entirely. Her instincts screamed that this wasn't just about a girl with a check. This was about something bigger, something wrong. Her hand moved faster over the paper now. Meeting at 3:12 p.m. Unknown man. Red folder. Manager handed over internal documents. Possible breach of protocol. She didn't know the laws, but she knew what she saw. And suddenly being alone didn't feel like weakness anymore. It felt like opportunity. She kept writing. Names, times, faces, phrases, everything. Tom looked her way again. This time their eyes met. She didn't look away. He did. The power was beginning to shift, even if no one else knew it yet. But then... "Miss Porter," Jasmine startled. Victoria stood over her again. "We're still waiting on verification. I suggest you remain where you are." Her tone was final, cold, but Jasmine wasn't afraid anymore. She nodded, calm, silent. And as Victoria walked away again, Jasmine wrote one more line. "She doesn't know who I am. But she's about to find out." The mother they didn't expect. The lobby was still buzzing quietly with the usual hum of keyboards and hushed phone calls when the front doors burst open. The sound wasn't loud, not in volume, but it was sharp. It cut through the marble-cold silence like a blade. Every head turned, and Jasmine looked up. There she was, Naomi Porter. Not just Jasmine's mother, not just someone who worked in finance, but Naomi Porter, a senior official at the Federal Financial Ethics Council, known for breaking corporate scandals and holding entire banks accountable. A name whispered in boardrooms and respected even among the most powerful. She didn't come in with a bodyguard or a press team. She didn't need to. Naomi wore a gray power suit that looked tailored to precision, heels that echoed like war drums across the marble, and a sharp look in her eye that warned, "I already know everything. You should be afraid." She scanned the lobby like a hawk, and when she spotted Jasmine, her daughter sitting alone on the bench flanked by a silent guard, clutching a binder and trying not to cry, her expression didn't just harden, it froze into something lethal. Jasmine stood instinctively. She didn't even have time to say her name. "Who put my daughter there?" Naomi's voice rang out, perfectly calm and deafeningly clear. Tom dropped his pen. A client turned. The security guard shifted his stance, as if remembering he wasn't as invisible as he thought. Victoria appeared from the hallway, already composing a fake smile that crumbled halfway through. She hadn't prepared for this. Not for her. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but—" "Don't call me ma'am," Naomi cut her off, walking past the velvet ropes like they didn't exist. "Call me by my name, Naomi Porter, and tell me why my daughter is being surveilled like a shoplifter instead of being helped with her account." Victoria flinched. She came in alone, with a questionable check. Questionable to whom? Victoria hesitated. It's a large amount, and she had no formal ID. "I submitted every required document online," Naomi snapped. "Verified, time-stamped, signed." Jasmine was told this process would be simple, that she could experience handling her own finances for the first time. Tom suddenly found something very interesting on the floor. "She was told this would be a moment of empowerment," Naomi continued. "Instead, she was interrogated, isolated, and—" Her eyes drifted to the guard, who quickly took a step back. "Surveilled." Victoria was struggling now. "It's bank protocol." "No, this is bank protocol?" Naomi gestured toward Jasmine. "What message does that send to every young black girl who walks in here alone?" The entire room held its breath. Jasmine wanted to speak, but her throat locked again. Her mother's words were cutting through the air like fire. But then Naomi did something unexpected. She turned to Jasmine and gently extended her hand. "Tell them what you saw." Jasmine blinked. "Me? You wrote it down, didn't you?" Her fingers fumbled with the binder, then opened it. The pages she'd written earlier now felt heavier, more important. She took a breath. "At 3:12 p.m., I saw manager Victoria Hayes meet with a man I identified as Harrison Wells, the CEO of Midtown Capital." She handed him a red folder containing what appeared to be internal documents. Victoria went pale. The regional director, who had just walked in, sensing trouble, froze. "I recorded the exchange in my notebook," Jasmine continued, her voice steadier now. "There was no explanation. No one else was notified. And then I was told to wait in the corner like I'd done something wrong." She handed the page to her mother, who took it without breaking eye contact with Victoria. Naomi turned to the now stunned regional director. "This is no longer about discrimination. It is now about corporate misconduct. My daughter may be 14, but she has just witnessed an act that qualifies as financial malpractice and possible information leakage to a competitor." Victoria opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Naomi walked forward slowly, placing the notebook in front of the director. "I am officially filing a misconduct report," she said. "But I want to make one thing very clear." She turned back to the room. "My daughter came in here with confidence, dignity, and purpose. She was treated like a criminal. She was humiliated in front of strangers. And all while you—" she looked at Victoria, "were betraying your own institution." The silence was no longer cold. It was charged, the kind of silence that comes before thunder. Victoria stammered. I wasn't, I mean—" Naomi raised her hand. "No explanations. You've said enough." Within moments, the director issued a command. "Victoria Hayes, please step aside. Security will escort you out pending internal investigation." This time, the guard didn't hesitate. He moved forward. Victoria froze. "You can't do this. I've worked here for 15 years. But he was already at her side. As she was led away, she turned to Jasmine. "You little—" "Don't," Naomi said sharply. Victoria's mouth snapped shut. The doors opened again, this time not with power but with defeat, as Victoria was taken out of the building she'd once ruled over like a queen. Jasmine stood quietly beside her mother. The weight in her chest was gone. In its place, something new. Not just relief, pride, strength, control. Justice served. The glass doors slowly swung shut behind Victoria Hayes, her echoing heels now just a fading memory. The lobby of the bank stood frozen in a moment that felt larger than time, as if the entire room had just witnessed something seismic, something irreversible. Jasmine stood tall beside her mother, shoulders no longer hunched, no longer guarded. Her face, once flushed with anxiety, was now lit with quiet defiance. Her fingers still clutched her binder, but she wasn't hiding behind it anymore. She held it like evidence. The regional director adjusted his tie, clearly rattled. He looked between Naomi and the still hovering security guard, then to Tom, who had now left his desk and joined the group, his face pale, his eyes remorseful. Naomi remained composed, but her presence carried the full weight of authority. She wasn't just a furious mother anymore. She was the storm that had been building from the moment her daughter was told she was nobody. "Ms. Porter," the director began, clearing his throat, "on behalf of Grant and Wells, I want to formally apologize. What happened here today is unacceptable," Naomi finished for him, "and systemic." He nodded quickly. Yes. We'll be opening an internal review immediately. I've already instructed HR to begin documentation. This isn't how we treat people, especially not children, especially not your daughter." Jasmine watched the man squirm. She felt strange. Powerful, yes, but also aware of how fragile their morality became the moment consequences loomed. "I don't need apologies," Naomi said evenly. "I need action." And just like that, she turned to her daughter. "Are you ready to finish what you came here for?" Jasmine blinked. "You mean—" "To deposit your check," Naomi smiled. "You earned it." Tom stepped forward. I'd be honored to assist her," he said quietly. "And I'm sorry. I should have said something sooner." Naomi didn't smile, but she gave a short nod. "Then don't make the mistake again." Jasmine approached the counter with Tom and handed him the check. The same check that had sparked all of this. This time, no one questioned it. No one looked at her sideways. No one called security. The transaction was done in under 2 minutes. Simple, clean, exactly the way it should have been from the beginning. And yet, it wasn't the deposit that mattered anymore. It was what it had revealed. As they turned to leave, Jasmine stopped. Something inside her told her the story wasn't finished yet. She looked back at the customers in the lobby, many of whom had been there the whole time. Watching. Silent. A few looked away, ashamed. One woman gave a slow, guilty nod. Another man stood awkwardly, as if unsure whether to clap or bow his head. But Jasmine didn't need applause. She needed them to remember. "Next time you see someone being mistreated," she said aloud, her voice calm but cutting through the air like a bell, "don't just stand there." Her words echoed. She didn't wait for a response. She walked out with her mother, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows behind them, their reflections tall and unbending in the polished glass of the bank's doors. That evening, the story hit the local news. A leaked recording from one of the customers captured Victoria's arrest, Naomi's speech, and Jasmine's quiet but commanding final words. The clip went viral. #justice. For Jasmine, trended for 2 days. But more than that, real change followed. Grant and Wells Bank issued a public apology and announced a complete overhaul of its staff training and ethics programs. Victoria Hayes was officially terminated and banned from working in finance pending federal investigation for possible corporate leaks. Harrison Wells, the CEO Jasmine had spotted in the back office, was subpoenaed 3 days later. Anonymous reports confirmed he had received internal client data in exchange for cash incentives. Jasmine's notebook, the timing she recorded, and her courage to speak publicly helped build the case. She had exposed a corporate crime by simply watching, by writing it down, by refusing to stay silent. 1 month later, Jasmine stood on a stage at the Youth Empowerment Conference, invited as a guest speaker. She wore the same uniform, freshly ironed, her shoes shined this time, and held her binder in hand like a badge of honor. "My mother told me once," she said to the crowd, "that truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to stand firm." I went to the bank to deposit a check, but I came out with something bigger. I realized that even when you're young, even when you're underestimated, your voice still matters. She paused. "They told me I was nobody here, but I wrote it all down, and the world listened." The crowd rose to their feet. Naomi watched from the front row, tears in her eyes, pride swelling in her chest. Not just because Jasmine had spoken with such strength, but because she'd chosen dignity over anger, truth over silence, and because she now knew her daughter would never again be nobody to anyone.